I got asked to speak at this possible woman thing, and Elaine and I were talking, and I thought, well, it'll be fun. Let's just see what happens to do one in Atlanta. And then somebody in Philadelphia said, who's been through our leadership program, I want to do one here. And then somebody in LA said, I want to do one here. And then somebody said, I want to do one here. So all of a sudden, this is becoming a different thing. In the future, we're going to do it in an evening during the week. We're finding that, and I just want to acknowledge you being here for the day, so thank you for that. And then after the evening, if people love it, we'll end up doing the weekend program, which kind of drills down. So then it started to have a mind of its own, and we thought, well, in each city, we really want to give an award to somebody who's gutsy. So the very first Gutsy Award is going to Miss Elaine Sterling. Come on up here. Now I have to tell you that there is a bracelet that is being created, a silver bracelet, and it says it's good to be gutsy, but it wasn't ready. So I'm handing her this that was sitting over there just because I like it. It's yours anyway. But I love what it says. It says, go confidently into the direction of your dreams. Live the life you always imagined. And it's Thoreau. So, see, sometimes men come up with something really good. But this is so perfect. So you can have this back, but I promise you, you're going to get your bracelet as soon as it's done. Thank you. So what I want to say about Elaine, because I've known her for a long time, is I've watched her, and I love that you picked her up, Nadia, when she came here for the very first time. And I've watched Elaine go through some incredible journeys, personally, professionally, physically, emotionally. And what I know about Elaine is you always land on your feet, my dear. So I am going to give her time now. You have to come. Where do you want her standing? And should I give here? I'm passing this to you too. Yeah, I do. We'll do it after. Well, it's your turn to.
The floor is yours.
Yeah, first of all, you want to say, oh, thank you, and give me a hug.
Oh, thank you, Sylvia. Thank you very much.
The very first.
I feel very honored and privileged. The very first Gutsy Award. It's amazing, and I think that it's an important award for women who are making strides. And I feel very privileged that, because sometimes I don't think of myself as gutsy. But you keep reminding me that I'm gutsy.
Everybody knows that that's who you are. So talk a little bit about you. Just whatever you'd like, your story about overcoming obstacles and moving on.
Okay. I think some of my biggest obstacles started when I was very small because I had to live in so many countries. We had to go from one country to another. And because my father worked for a motor car company, so we went to Australia and Taiwan and about 7 countries, 11 schools, something like that. Wow. And so I never had long-term relationships. The longest relationship I've ever had is with Nadia. In fact, and living in my home is gutsy because I've lived in my home now for 10 years. So my relationships are only 2.5 years. So as a result, my friendships as a child. So as a result, most of my relationships with men or with jobs, with anything I've done, have never lasted more than 3 years because it's kind of like in my DNA, it's time to move on. So when I got engaged in South Africa to my second husband, he wanted to come to America to work for CNN, and I said, no, it's not for me. Well, after 9 months of telling me how much he, can't live without me and how wonderful I am, I packed my bags. And my parents did not want me to go. In fact, my father was adamant and quite hostile to me leaving with my 9-year-old child because they were so close to her. I arrived here. Well, apparently all those emails about how he couldn't live without me, well, apparently he could quite well. So here I was in America with a 2-year-old child and a 9-year-old, 18 months and a 9-year-old, and what do? You're a single mom. So I look in my little box, and there I have a license and an esthetician degree and everything from South Africa, and I was like, okay, I can do something with beauty. Well, I had to go and plead my case with the state board because they didn't believe me. But having said that, I started my career as aesthetics in America and went from strength to strength. But then being a single mom, and when I first started working, I worked 3 jobs. When I left my husband, I rented a very nice apartment, and I slept on the floor. And sometimes I couldn't buy groceries, and Nadia gave me my $400 once to buy me groceries for my kids. So it was like I had to work 3 jobs. I did front desk during the day. In the afternoon, I worked at a spa, and at nighttime, I'd go to people's houses and do massages. So I did that until I got a job at Spa Citadel. And then in the midst of that, I got cancer, and that wasn't on the plan. You don't wake up when you're 35 and say, okay, today I'm going to get cancer. That's really not, that's what they call when the shoe drops. And I'll never forget my surgeon saying to me that, Elaine, in your life, this is not going to be the worst thing that ever happened to you. It was. I have to say, it really was. And again, my girlfriend Nadia was there with me. She actually had to be there when I woke up in the hospital room to tell me, because my family wasn't here. So she's really been with me through thick and thin, sick and sin. I hope more sin than sick from now on, because that's so much more fun. So you have to choose to be gutsy. It actually has to be a choice. And I think, you know, the quote we were talking about in the magazine where they say, well, what business decisions, you know, were you afraid to make? And I said in the quote, well, I'm never afraid to make bad decisions or wrong decisions. I'm not afraid to fail. Because really you need to be afraid of fear itself. And you cannot worry about failure, especially if you know, just as you hold up your hands in strength, if it's the right decision. So for me, it's about owning gutsy and accepting gutsy and saying, I choose to be gutsy and make bold decisions. And I have to say that I really, from the cancer was a gift because it took everything away from me. I was 50 pounds heavier, I had no hair, I was very, very ill. Sometimes I couldn't get out of bed. And back when I had it, believe it or not, even though it was only 10 years ago, 9 years ago, not as many people had it or talked about it. So a lot of my friends stopped coming around, or they would leave food by the door. So I did not have the help that I had, that I see everybody else has, except for, of course, Nadia. So it did change me. And it didn't make me nicer, but it made me stronger. It made me bolder and stronger, and it gave everything back to me that it took away. That's an important thing because it took everything from me. I couldn't work for 6 months. I couldn't. I lost all my friends. I could hardly look after my children. My children were angry because their mother was sick. But when I started feeling, and it took 2 years to feel better, but I got it all back. And being gutsy was for me when we'll talk about when I finished my radiation and the booms opened, making a decision, I'm going to change my life. And I'm not going to be afraid of the consequences, because if you're open to it, I didn't know that another school would want to hire me. I didn't know that when I opened my school that it would be successful or wouldn't be successful. Everybody thought I was crazy when I opened the school. The economy's bad, who are you going to get, who do you know, how are you going to find these students? And I didn't listen to anybody. I knew I had a vision and a dream. And I also knew that all of the lectures and the classes and the speeches I had given for years previously, if I did not put that into practice, if I did not live and talk and be all the things I said I could do, I would have failed myself. So what if I failed? What is the worst thing that can happen? Because also what I said to myself was, nothing is worse than being hooked up to a chemo drip. I don't care what you say. Nothing is worse than that. So living in the extended stay or losing my business or my home is not as bad as a chemo drip. So that is always my comparison. For anybody that says it's easy, it's not. So being gutsy is saying I'm not afraid to fail, even if I might. And so that is why I'm proud to have this Gutsy Award. So thank you.
You're fabulous. All right, you get this off.
Thank you.
Well, we're going to have a lot of people who are going to have to live up to a lot to get their Gutsy Awards, Elaine. That was beautiful. And having your dear friend here is very powerful, the power of friendship and having been through so much together. So I want to acknowledge you too. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah.